Hey folks, it's Frederik from the FWX podcast. I want to continue talking about the series Ironheart, as I've already covered the first 3 episodes of the show in the previous episode of the podcast. And so, as I have mentioned before, this is a continuation of Riri's life and her story inside the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Of course, we saw that in especially this movie, Black Panther Wakanda Forever, which was, of course, started with the first movie of the Black Panther inside the MCU. And as I have said before, I love these 2 movies. They are absolutely incredible. And so I wanted to mention that for a moment before continuing on with Ironheart. And before I start with anything with that and talk about the story and the characters and where it will lead us, is that I have to give you the disclaimer. And of course, I am not a original English speaker, so on occasion I might still flub or fumble a word or more than one. And sometimes when I get agitated or I freak out a little or go off on a tangent or a rant or anything like that, I tend to sometimes swear and also have a awkward pause. And also important to note is that I am reading off my screen, which means that the screen will brighten and I will brighten as well. And so let's get started talking about the last 3 episodes of Ironheart. But first, there's one more thing I forgot to do in the last episode of the podcast, because there's a shit ton of music in this series specifically, and I forgot to mention the music that was playing at the end and during the last episode, the previous episode of Ironheart, and I'll start with that right now. I got a list with the names of the titles. Okay, here we go. So, in no particular order, but I think this is in order. The songs of episode 3 are Wicked Gyal from Bambi with 2 eyes at the end and Lady Lycas. Then the song Making Plays by Beatnet. Alborossi with Slam Bam. That's the song name, Slam Bam. Then a bit more known song, Best Friends by Saweetie and Doja Cat. It's about the most known song on this list. Then the song Moonlight on the Sea from Eric Speller, I think I'm supposed to pronounce. Then a couple more artists that are well known, Skrillex and Frederik, along with Floden, made the song Rumble that plays on that episode. Then there's also Nina Moschella, Sean Lee's Ping Pong Orchestra for the song Kiss the Sky. And finally Eliza with Putting Out Fires. So those are all the songs from that 3rd episode of Ironheart. Okay, let's continue with the episodes that I haven't talked about yet. Okay, so episode number 4 is called Bad Magic, and this starts off with a little bit of a prologue, or more likely a flashback, where we see Parker and John, of course played in this series by Manny Montana, who plays John, and Parker Robbins, played by Anthony Ramos, as you can see right here. And they are breaking into a mansion, and they get caught by a security guard. But before Parker is thrown away, John manages to shoot and kill the security guard, and the 2 of them flee the mansion in different directions. And that's the setup that basically tells us something that we need to know for the timeline here inside this episode. So Riri shows up to the hideout and she ends up lying to the gang because she fears that Parker will step in because of what happened to John during the heist at Heirlum. And also because the biomesh that she used from Zeke, remember Ezekiel Stain, who now goes by Zeke, which he is joining into, but his original name is Joe McGillicuddy, and of course he's played by this guy, Alden Ehrenreich, that you can see right here. And so Riri is afraid that there will be enough evidence for Parker to come to his senses that someone is playing with him. And I mean playing as in a long game, like a con, basically. But then they see on the news, because there's a TV screen in the hideout, or on a computer screen, I think it was a computer screen, that the biomesh has been found at Heirlum, which causes Zeke, or Joe McGillicuddy, to be arrested and hauled away by federal police. And he is taken away to a, what's the proper name here? A jail of some kind. There's other words for it. And this causes Zeke or Joe to turn against Riri, which takes Riri back home, as she is fully spiraling from everything because she's afraid that she will get linked, that Zeke is going to give her up. And so that leads her to finally ask her mom to tell her. That leads her to finally ask her mom for help. And since she has that piece of the hood that Parker has, Riri asks her mom to get in touch with the people that she knows best, and she asks to be taken to one of her mom's friends. By the way, her mom played by this woman right here, Anji White. And so the two of them go to a friend of Ronnie's called Madeleine Stanton, who actually used to be, or I won't just tell you, I'll describe what happens. So they go to the shop that Madeleine has, and it very quickly becomes clear that Madeleine isn't just some bad juju kind of person with like feelings for vibes and aromas and auras and all of that, but she actually went to a place where you can be taught magic, Camartage, and she never really got the full education for it, and because she became pregnant and she had a child, Zelma Stanton, who, by the way, is a character from the comics, and maybe we'll even see her again in... There are rumors that maybe we're going to get a Strange Academy TV series from Marvel. And so Zelma has been known from the Strange Academy comics from Marvel. And so we see her, we see Zelma and Madeleine, and they show off a bit of their skill, and they mention or try to come to the information of the evidence of the piece of the hood that Riri shows. that leads her to the examination of this fragment that she has, and the both of them, the Stantons, come to a head with each other. I'm gonna rephrase. They determine that this piece of the hood isn't just any kind of thing, but actually it is a dangerous artifact from a place, likely a dark dimension, that might be influencing the person that is wearing the hood. And Riri knows that Parker is wearing it, of course. And as Riri is confronted by this, her mom tries to open up to Riri, telling her that you don't really do this for me, but I'm trying now when you act, but you're trying now when you actually need something from me. So she very much shares her frustration that Riri really asks for things when she really needs it, and not when she really should do it. So there's a bit of tension, more than a bit of tension between the two of them, and that leads to Riri going back to the place where she got the biomass from Joe McKillicuddy, again played by Alden Ehrenreich. And while she's on her way inside the suit, she experiences a panic attack, and she decides that she needs to leave the suit, and so she luckily lands somewhere softly, not too far, or pretty close from the place where Joe has been keeping his black market stuff, and he's not there. He's been taken into custody by federal police. So Riri contacts someone else that it's not Riri that actually contacts someone. It's the NATALIE AI that basically commands someone to come and help Riri out, and that is of course Xavier, the brother of Riri's best friend. And of course there's an actor playing that character, and that is Matthew Elam, as you can see right here. And so initially he comes in goodwill, but then he sees who and what NATALIE exactly is, and he is extremely distraught by this. And not just about what the AI looks like in the flesh, but also that Riri would do such a thing, like make an exact copy of his sister. And so he's unsure how to go any further with this situation, and so he goes away. Well, he was actually supposed to help her, and actually he demands that Riri delete the AI. And this causes NATALIE inside the suit to go away herself, because surprisingly an AI can get hurt by emotions, which kind of puts a stinker in the whole theory that is she really an AI, if she can handle or not handle emotions, really. And I know this is not about the show really, but I have theorized myself that we're getting to a point where we might be getting some advanced AI. In fact, for one of my projects on the side, I've theorized that maybe we're getting to advanced dynamic intelligence. Well, that might be where it ultimately goes. So the theory for myself that I make is you have artificial intelligence, then you have artificial dynamic intelligence, and then there's advanced intelligence. And that's something that I'm using for a side project. And so that seems to be a little of what is happening with the NATALIE AI in this moment, that she actually can feel things, which is interesting because she was born out of the brain mapping that Riri did to get an AI to life. So that puts an interesting dent in the theory that is this really an AI or not? And so let's continue with the story here. And that leads Riri to be alone. And we get a couple of other scenes with the gang as they break Zeke out of the jail. But not before also doing something that could potentially be harmful to anybody else, as the suit, NATALIE, the AI in the suit, helps Zeke, Ezekiel Stain, or Joe McGillicuddy, or whatever fucking name you want to use here, to help the guy with implementing himself with the thing that he was warning Riri about, and that is the bionic enhancements. And at this point, Parker has come to the point that it probably was Riri that is responsible for John's death. And so he sends the gang to go and kill Riri. And that leads us to the next episode. And before we go any further, I'm also going to share the songs that were played in this episode, starting with the song Crown by Andre Truth, then Floetic by the artist Flowtree, then Erika Badu's song The Healer, followed up by Jamila Woods' song Frida in all caps, and finally the song Villano by Anthony Ramos, apparently. I'm gonna look this up for a moment, because I didn't know that Ramos also makes music. Okay, this is a song from 2023 that he made. I'm gonna bring up for a moment what this is about. So Anthony Ramos made a song that delves into the aftermath of public scandal for him. He sings about a situation where he was accused of infidelity, as he was supposedly seen with another woman. And in this song, he embraces the role of a villain, challenging assumptions and judgments that were placed upon him. And so this reminds me of the more juvenile songs on the Reputation album by Taylor Swift. So someone that leans into the persona that people think a person is, so that people can be seen as a villain because they seem to be doing bad things. So that's what that is about. It's him identifying as a villain, which of course is in theme with what is happening to Parker himself, with all the tattoos that he has and the influence of the hood on him. Especially now that we know more about what the hood, where the hood is from, supposedly from a dark dimension. Okay. let's continue with the next episode. And this next one is called Karma's a Glitch, which obviously is a play on words. And so, while Riri is away, you have NATALIE, the AI, moping on a public place, and one of the gang members, Slug, who is played in this series by this person right here, Shea Coulee, I hope I pronounced that right, who really catches the AI off guard, and so the suit is captured. And while this is happening, Riri meets up with Zelma Stanton. I think I haven't... Oh yeah, that's the actress playing Zelma, by the way. Regan Aliyah. That's her right here. And Zelma has come to the conclusion, or in her own opinion, conclusion, that the cloak might be coming from a being that has made its own entrance inside the MCU, and she thinks it came from Dormammu, from the Doctor Strange, the first Doctor Strange movie, where this giant chaos being is someone that wants to swallow up the earth. And Riri and Zelma have this meeting in a White Castle, which is a fast food location. And it is also an actual place, apparently. So, I've mentioned before in the previous episodes that I'm not from America, and I had that thing about a principal and a dean, and I didn't really know what the difference was until I figured it out, just like right here. So a White Castle, kind of like a Wendy's or a McDonald's, is a fast food location, but they have more specific fast food items. Okay, and so Zelma gets away as Riri is ambushed by the gang, specifically by the Blood siblings, were of course played by Zoe Terakis, and then also her, Shakira Barrera, and also Clown, Sonia Dennis, this actress. And this is unfortunate for Riri, because she's not at her best when she has no access to her suit, or as I like to call it, a mech, because it does have that kind of design. Because for me, that's the whole tagline for this franchise, for this TV series: mech versus magic. But she does manage to fend them off, and she says to Clown that it was John that killed Stewart. That was Stewart being this man right here, Eric Andre's character. And so this is a huge fight, by the way. Big action scenes for Riri to show off that despite not having a suit, she can still be a badass, or try to be a badass, because she's more at her best when she's handling tech. But she's trying her best nonetheless. And so there is that moment, of course, where she kind of makes an improvised bazooka, basically, and fires something off onto, I think it was Clown. And that leads Riri to outside. In the meantime, the suit and NATALIE, the AI, break free from the car or the vehicle that uh, Slug was driving away with, and NATALIE gets right on time to Riri as she is attacked by someone that has taken up a freelancer role on the team, and that is Zeke, who is now completely bionically enhanced. So he is exactly like his comic book counterpart, completely top to toe, full on tech, which is interesting because it serves the contrast. And Zeke is able to fire off lightning using, because interestingly, I don't know if you know this, but us people, we can conduct electricity because we have electricity in our heads in a certain place. I'm not a scientist, so I can't really tell you about that. I'm not really a scientist or a biologist, so I can't really tell you how that works, but basically he can conduct electricity between his hands and shoot it off at her, and that's what happens. They have a full-on fight, mech versus bionic. And this is happening, she tries to make sure that he does not kill her despite breaking the suit. And he does, ultimately, because she tries to remind him that she was the one trying to help him out originally. And yes, maybe that has set him off on a different path, but the fact is that she still tried, that she tried for him, for the people that she loves, for anything that is, I'm gonna rephrase, so she manages to get him to spare her, but he still absolutely dismantles the suits that she has made, which leads to her returning back home, where she turns to her mom, to Ronnie, for help, realizing that she can't do this without help from her community and her family. And while she is doing that, we get the gang back at the hideout as they lie to Parker, saying that he is dead, saying that Riri is dead. And at this moment, they turn on him as Clown reveals that Parker had John kill Stewart. And so they fully turn on him. And they don't have a fight, but it does tell them to get out. It tells them, there is the door. Never ever come back or I will kill you. And so they all go away. And this leads Parker to be alone on his quest of revenge. And he now takes control of Zeke and the state that he is in, because he was one of the people. Well, I'm not going to rephrase here, but we see in something from a moment ago, that from the previous episode, actually, at the end, that Zeke went into a machine to get himself all bionic completely. And so Parker decides that I need to have control over this guy, or he could turn against me too. That was in the previous episode. And so here he decides that I need a new right-hand man, since John is not here anymore. And so he commands Zeke to be that right-handed man that he needs. And the two of them go to a mansion in the larger Chicago area, which also happens to be the home of Parker's very wealthy father, Arthur. Who happens to be the person pulling the strings at those companies that Parker and the gang targeted. Because he has an interest in those companies. The father does, Arthur. I think maybe I have a picture of that guy. Oh, yeah. So, that is this gentleman right here, Paul Calderon, who is the owner and CEO of Artworks, but his real name is Arthur Robbins. Did I say that right? Yes, Arthur Robbins. And Parker convinces his father through persuasion, some very forced persuasion, because he's being held at gunpoint, Arthur, to sign everything over to Parker. As Parker reveals to us, the audience, that his father tossed him out at a very young age, having to fend for himself because he was not responsible enough. But now, Parker wants it all. And that cuts us back to Riri and her people, including her mom, the AI that she made, and Xavier was trying to get over the fact that his sister has an AI version now. And with their help, Riri builds a new suit from what she still has left from the old suit, along with a car that she and her stepfather Gary were made back when he was still around. And they get an assist also from Zelma Stanton, and also from that young guy that we met at the very beginning, played by this young man right here, Harper Anthony. And Riri still has that little piece of the hood, and thinks, since this is some kind of infinite form of energy, maybe I can power the suit with it. And so that leads them to create the suit. And with the old car, the very cool old car. But as Zelma is preparing the ritual to get the piece of cloak to function as energy inside the suit, everything goes wrong, and the NATALIE AI is destroyed in the process. And that is the end of this episode. And it's of course with a lot of shock, and Riri is quite distraught by it, because she's finally getting to a place where she can accept what happens with her best friend and Gary too. And we get a montage from this whole series of moments where she and the group are outfitting the suits and trying to make the ritual as perfect as possible so that she can use the suit again. This new suit that she's making that has all the Iron Man hints, because it's very red, but it's a good mix of what Riri is so interested and idolized by, while also being faithful to herself and the community around her. Kind of like the hints in the poster, really. A good bit of gold and red, as she feels like those colors embody her. Yes. And that's where this episode ends. And before I start talking about the last episode, I'm gonna also talk and tell you the songs of this episode, starting with Santana and his song Evil Ways, followed up by another. It's the second time that we get the song Brown Skin Girl by Leon Bridges. Also followed by Santa God with the song Desperate Youth. And finally, Sevdalisa with the song Hubris. Okay, and that brings us to the last episode of this miniseries about the character of Ironheart and the story of Riri Williams. And I can finally talk about that huge cameo that sets up a lot of things. And to start off, I'll start off by saying the name of the title, and that is The Past is the Past. And we get this episode with a beginning flashback when Parker and John did that robbery at Parker's father's house. And as they're escaping from getting caught, Parker is caught between two sides of security guys. One group ahead of him and another one following him with a kind of overhead bridge as he got stuck under there. And here he is approached by none other than the demon, the head demon, the devil of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, Mephisto. Played to perfection, I will say, by this guy, Sacha Baron Cohen, who plays Mephisto. And Mephisto gives Parker a deal. And he wants to help Parker achieve his goals. And he'll do that by wearing the cloak of Mephisto. And so Parker accepts this, as it was said in the past. That leads us back to the present, as we have Parker on a tangent in the hideout, as he's accusing Mephisto of not fulfilling their bargain because he needs more power. And we get another scene with Mephisto as Parker tries to make it clear to Mephisto that he can do it. He can achieve his goals if only Mephisto were to give him even more power. And that leads that brings us back to Riri, as she is distraught by the vanishing of NATALIE. By the way, I can't help but find it kind of a pattern here, is that NATALIE disappears the moment that Mephisto gets involved. Sounds interesting, right? There must be some kind of pattern here. Like, why does NATALIE, the AI, disappear the moment that Mephisto gets involved? Okay. I wanted to point it out for a moment. So, and Riri is highly uncomfortable with all the stress and the tension with everyone around, and she is unclear on what to feel because she can't recreate NATALIE And so she ignores all the advice that she gets from her mom and her friends and the people that are helping her. And she goes to the hideout of Parker. And before she can get in, she is interrupted by Zeke. Who she manages to lock up in the freezer of this pizzeria place where the gang was hanging out. And I believe she's in her suit despite not being able to get NATALIE back online or to life, depending on that theory that I just mentioned. And she frees Zeke from the control that Parker has on him as Riri finds it out for the first time, and we get a big battle between the two again, where she's way more equipped and able to be dealing with him right now. And that leads Riri to go into the hideout, inside the elevator into the place. And now, because Parker asked for more power from Mephisto, he manages to fight Riri. But in those moments, there's a specific moment in this fight where he tosses the suit with her around onto the stairway leading to his supposed office. And we see him change into, I'm gonna liken this to the Green Goblin in The Amazing Spider-Man, the Harry Osborn version, where he just turns like fully, because the scarring that the hood gave him, along with the tattoos that he was putting on him to be dealing with the pain of having the hood on him, and he just completely turns, almost starts to look like an actual goblin, like from ancient mythology. And he seems to take over completely, and he seems to fight her to the point that he gets the upper hand. And just when he thinks that he has her, she turns it around with a hologram that seems so real to him, that gets him to take off the cloak, and she completely dupes him with it, which makes him absolutely desperate and powerless, as he is now without the cloak or the hood. Definitely not a cape. Cape is without a hood piece. And so this could very much be seen as like an addiction, basically. Like, I needed to use it to have more power, but without it I am nothing. I am just a stupid man. So I think the hood is basically that. Like, if I have it, I can handle things. If I don't have it, then I am an idiot. So that leaves Riri alone. As she goes back downstairs to the pizzeria part of the hideout. And here we see a man sitting in a booth with long hair and a beady beard, who is trying to eat a pizza and tries to convince Riri to eat the one before him. And we see everything change from this supposed empty pizzeria diner changes into a restaurant full of people. And we see exactly who it is in a split moment where this man holds up his utensil, and we see in the reflection actually this is Mephisto, because you see him all red in the face, like a literal devil. And so Mephisto, all suave and persuasive, tries to make a deal with Riri and tries to make it clear to her that actually all this time I've been looking for someone that I can guide and let them achieve their goals. And he tries to make a deal with Riri that he can give her all she wants. And he makes it clear that he is Mephisto and not the being that her friends thought that he was, that he is not Dormammu. And so he offers her the deal that he originally made with Parker. And it does seem like she accepted as she extends her hand. And she accepts the deal on the condition that he not go after anyone that she loves. And then we cut away to a new scene where it seems like NATALIE is completely back to life. And Riri is finally able to hug her. And initially she's happy about this. And that is where the episode ends. Until we get Marvel's famous mid-credit scenes, after-credit scenes. And here we see that Parker is back to his old self, but still very suave and persuasive, as he comes to the Stanton store and he asks Zelma about where he might be able to get something that could satisfy his hunger for power, his hunger for big magic, as he says it. And that is where it ends. So that is Ironheart. There you have it, folks. That was the series of Ironheart as I have explained it to you. And I hope you enjoyed this. I hope you enjoyed to me talk about it and listen and watched as I talked about the story, the characters, and of course, I can't end this by also talking about the last bit of music that is in here. And for the last episode, they only had 3 songs, and that is Last Pick by Wakil featuring El the God, and also the song Didn't I by The Rondo, and finally the song Confessions by the Sudan Archives. Okay, that is all for the show and for me for now. I want to thank you for sitting through all of this. And you can also like this video if you like. You can also comment if you want to do that. But please keep it civil and polite. And you can also subscribe to the channel if you like. If you like this kind of content. I will definitely be making some more in the future. I think the next big thing for Marvel is the Fantastic Four movie. The new one. Hopefully a very good one. Instead of what we had before, and I will probably be covering that. Maybe in the meantime I'll do something to fill the MCU gap in your life that you want to know in a podcast form. So thank you for all of that. I'm Frederik. This is the FWX podcast, and I will see you in the next video.